Good morning, everyone. We're here today to present our presentation titled Authentication and Access Control. Authentication and access control are foundational concepts in the realm of information security and assurance. In an age where digital interaction pervade every aspect of our lives, ensuring that only authorized individual or system can access sensitive information or requests or resources is paramount. Ang authentication at ang access control ay isa sa mga security na ginagamit natin ngayon digital age. Ang gamit nito ay ang pag-ensure ng information o resources natin sa system sa paggamit ng password and username, etc. Authentication is a term that refers to the process of providing compact or some document is genuine. In computer science, this term is typically associated with providing users identity. Usually, a user provide their identity by providing their credentials. That is an agreed piece of information shared between the user and the system. Ang authentication parang isang fax na data na binibigay mo sa computer para maka-access ka sa computer. Access control is a fundamental component of data security that dictates who allowed to access and use company information and resources. Through authentication and authorization, access control policies make sure users are who they say they are and that they have appropriate access of company data. Si access control naman ay isa sa component ng data security na siya yung nag-dictates kung i-access ka ba niya sa computer o hindi. Authentication is the process of identifying user that request access to a system, network, server, app, website, or device. The primary goal of authentication is to ensure that a user is who they claim to be. Unauthorized users are prevented from accessing sensitive data with user authentication. Authentication improves security by allowing any organization admin to manage an individual user identity and access. Ang unauthorization user ay hindi makaka-access sa system para hindi nila makita ang mga sensitive data ng user. Ang authentication ay may nagmamanage na organizational admin, sila yung nakakakita sa lahat ng password at username natin.
Authentication involves several key elements and mechanisms. Identity: the user, system, or entity that seeks access to a particular resource is identified through a unique identifier, often referred to as a username, user ID, or client ID. This is like your username in a game. It tells the computer who you are so you can play. Second, we have credentials. This include the information that users or entities present to prove their identity. Credentials are like your proof of identification for games or an application. It's what shows you are really you. Common ones use password, nicknames, or usernames. Prevalent credential types includes something the user knows. This includes passwords, personal identification number or pins, phrases, or any other secret information that the only legitimate user should know. The something you know is a secret word or password or pin. Something the user has. This involves possession of physical objects or devices such as smart cards, security tokens, or mobile phones used for receiving one-time password or OTPs. Something you have is a special device or phone for codes. Third one is something the user is. This pertains to a biometric characteristics such as fingerprints, iris patterns, facial features, or voice recognition. Third, we have the authentication factors. Credentials falls into three main categories: known as authentication factors. The first category is knowledge factor. This involves something the user knows, such as password or pins. The knowledge factor is like your secret handshake. It's something only you know, like a password or PIN, personal identification number, or answer to a security question. Second authentication factor is the possession factor. This includes something the user has, such as a physical token or mobile phone used for receiving authentication codes. Possession factor. This could be a security fob, a phone used for receiving login codes, or even a special cards. Last authentication factor, which is inherence factor. This refers to something the user is, which involves biometric characteristic. Inherence factor is like your built-in key. It's something unique to you that can't be stolen or lost, like your fingerprint, face, iris, or even your voice. Authentication process. The authentication process typically follows these steps. First, we have initiation. The user or entity attempts to access a resource or service, triggering the authentication process. Initiation is the first step. Like this happens when you try to use something that requires verification, like logging into an app or website. It's like the system ways of asking, hey, who you are, to make sure you are allowed to access. Second, we have submission of credentials. The user presents their credentials, which could be a combination of knowledge, possession, and inherence factors, depending on the authentication method used. Submission of credentials. This is where you provide the information the system needs to verify you. It depends on the security method. Knowledge factor, you might type your password or PIN. Possession factor, you might enter a code sent to your phone or a security key. Last is inherence factor, you might use a fingerprint scanner or a facial recognition. The third authentication process is validation. The system or server verifies the presented credentials. It compares the provided information with the stored or pre-registered data associated with the user's identity. Validation happens. The systems compares what you provided, for example, is your ID, with what it has on file. Match is equal to access granted. If what you entered matches the stored information, the system recognizes you and lets you in. If it's no match, equals access denied. If there's a mismatch, the system doesn't recognize you and denies access. You might see an error messages like invalid username or password. The last authentication process is authentication result. Based on the comparison, the authentication process yields on two outcomes. First is the successful authentication. The system confirms that the presented credentials are valid and the user is granted access to the requested resource or service. Successful authentication is equivalent to thumbs up. It's like showing the right ID and getting to enter the fort or game. The system recognizes you and lets you in. Failed authentication is if it's the credentials are incorrect or do not match the expected data, the authentication fails and access is denied. Failed authentication is equivalent to thumbs down. It's like showing the wrong ID and getting blocked. The system doesn't recognize you and denies access. You might see a message like wrong password or access denied.
So we proceed to different types of authentication. So authentication methods are crucial for verifying user identities and ensuring secure access to systems and resources. There are five common authentication methods. So number one is authentication. We can authenticate um, application using number one, password-based login. So what is this? This is the more commonly utilized regular login authentication. It is a system that you will be employed on a daily basis while utilizing an online services is a password-based login. So nowadays we use password-based in order to open uh, e-banks, e-bank accounts, social media, our phones. We need a password. So the, the individual is authorized only when both of these elements have been verified. However, because of today's customer use multiple online, it's thought to keep the track of all the username and password. So this is the disadvantage of having a password. So end users engage in unethical behaviors. What are these? They are forgetting the password or using the password for several devices and so on. So this can be a opportunity for cyber criminals to engage uh, such as phishing, data breaches, hacking, and so on. So that is the fundamental reason why the standard password pass, why the standard password-based authentication is losing favor and more organizations are turning into advanced additional security authentication factors. So number two is multi-factor authentication. So what is the MFA or the multi-factor authentication? It is an authentication method in which an individual must pass multiple factors in order to gain access or service network. So it is an extra layer of security on the top of the standard password-based login. Individual must also submit a second factor in form of one-time code that they will receive to a phone or email, in addition to your username and password. Example of this is a Gcash. When we transfer a eCash to someone, we need to the system will require you to send the OTP or the one-time password or one-time code or PIN. Commonly, it's composed of six digits code that consists of numbers to uh, to enter to the given system, so that the system will verify that you are transferring a cache to another. So you may quickly configure several multi-factor authentication methods to give an extra layer to security to your resources. OTP via OTP or SMS, OTP over email, push notification, hardware token, and mobile authenticator are examples of MFA or multi-factor authentication. So this works in Google, Microsoft, OT, and etc. You can choose any of the MFA techniques and implement them to organizational security based on your needs and requirements. After traditional password-based login, multi-factor authentication is most trusted authentication mechanism. For improved security, password-based traditional authentication and multi-factor authentication methods are usually used simultaneously. So it's like in our phone. Mobile phone today is have multi-factor authentication like fingerprints, facial recognitions, and so on. So number three is biometric authentication. So what is this? Individual physical attributes such as fingerprints, palms, retinas, voice, face, and voice recognition are used in biometric authentication. So biometric authentication works in the following way. The first is the physical characteristic, which I save in the system's database. So individuals' physical features are checks against the data contained in the data. Whenever the users wants to access any data or physical to enter the premises or the organization, colleges. So in colleges, in our campus, we have in the faculties, we have fingerprint uh, login in order to track the employee. So biometric authentication technology is mostly employed in private organizations, airports, or border crossing points where security is top priority because of its capacity to create a high-level security and user-friendly frictionless flow. Biometric is one of the most often used security technologies. Yes, because nowadays, mobile phones have now um, biometric biometric logins. Like in an Android phone, we have the uh, back of the phone fingerprint side and the in display fingerprint. So among all the common biometric authentication methods, there are five. The one is the behavioral biometrics. What is this? Uses a person walks, types, or handles. Number two is fingerprint scanning. So it verifies authentication based on the user's fingerprints. So palm scanning is eye fingerprint scanning is you they scan your fingerprint. While palm scanning identifies the examining the unique vein pattern. So the palm is our palm is has a unique vein pattern. Like our fingerprint, we have a unique fingerprint. And number four is facial recognition. So everybody has a unique face, so no one can access your face unless if the hacker or the cyber criminal is uniquely or skillfully copy your face. And iris recognition is this is the most secure type of biometric authentication or the physical features because no one can really copy your retina. So what did this do? It scans the user eyes with infrared to compare the patterns against the same profile. So it uses infrared in order to save what is on your what is the genetics or the patterns that present in your eyes. So number four is certificate-based authentication. So this authentication is identifies people, servers, workstation, and devices by using an electronic digital identity. So a certificate is made of a user's identity, digital identity, which contains a public key and a certification authority signals digital signature. This certificate verifies that the public key and the person who issued the certificate are both the same person. When the user attempts to log into a server, they may issue the certificate of both same person, or they must first present their digital certificate. The server checks the digital certificate's identity and credibility by confirming that the user is correctly associated private key and with the certificate using cryptography. So the certificate base is uh, a digital certificate that only access with the one with the authority to have that digital certificate. So last one is the token based authentication. So this allows the users to enter the credential only once. So if the user failed to uh, enter the credentials like twice, it could be it could mm, it could halt the or decline or fail. It could maybe fail the access. After that, you won't be able to yon. It could be failed if you do not enter your credentials in one time access. Digital token ensures that you have already been granted access. So most of use cases such as RESTful APIs are the access by many frameworks and clients that require token-based authentication. So these are the five different types of authentication. So number one is password-based login, multi-factor authentication, biometric authentication, certificate-based authentication, and the last one is token-based authentication.
What is remote access and control? Remote access and control refers to the technology and protocols that allow individuals or systems to access, manage, and control computing resources or data from a location distinct from where the resources are hosted. This technology has become integral in a world that increasingly values flexibility, mobility, and the capacity to stay connected and productive irrespective of physical location. Remote access control enables users to securely access devices in different physical locations. These systems create remote computer interfaces featuring apps or services that users require. Workers with the right credentials can access databases and work applications from home or while they are traveling. Remote access controls and technologies. Remote access control enables users to securely access devices in a different physical location. These systems create remote computer interfaces featuring apps or services that users require. Workers with the right credentials can access databases and work applications from home or while they travel. Remote access key technologies include the VPN or Virtual Private Network. It establishes a secure encrypted connection for remote users to access private network resources and allows a user to connect to a private network over the internet securely and privately. VPN creates an encrypted connection that is called VPN tunnel, and all the internet traffic and communication is passed through this secure tunnel. A virtual private network is a common method used to provide remote access with each users needing individual authorization. To gain that access, organizations deploy a combination of software, hardware, and a network connectivity. Sometimes and remote desktop application software is incorporated in the remote host operating system, which can use one of the two types of remote access, which is the modem or broad.
Types of Virtual Private Network VPN. First, Remote Access VPN. It permits a user to connect to a private network and access all its service and resources remotely. Remote Access VPN is useful for home users and business users both. For example, ang users ay nagko-connect sa isang VPN users gamit ng isang client software o apps. Ang VPN server ay nagbibigay ng secure na connection sa private network na nagbibigay daan sa user na mag-access sa mga network resources tulad ng file servers and printers at iba pa. Site-to-site VPN is also called as router-to-router VPN and is commonly used in the large companies. Site-to-site VPN. Ang mga network ng bawat sangay ay konektado sa pamagitan ng mga VPN gateway o mga network device na may kakayahang mag-establish ng secure na connection. Third, Cloud VPN is a virtual private network that allows users to securely connect to a cloud-based infrastructure of service. Cloud VPN ay isang popular na solution para sa mga kumpanya at individual na nais magkaroon ng secure at flexible na connection sa internet. Mobile VPN is a virtual private network that allows mobile users to securely connect to a private network, typically throughout a circular network. Mobile VPN or virtual private network na ginagamit sa mga mobile device tulad ng smartphone at tablet. Ito ay nagbibigay daan sa mga gumagamit na magkaroon ng secure na connection sa internet. Secure Sockets Layer Virtual Private Network (SSL) is a type of VPN that is uses the SSL protocol to secure the connection between the users and the VPN server. PPTP point-to-point tunneling protocols VPN is a type of VPN that creates a secure connection by encapsulating data packets being sent between two computers. Verse 7. OpenVPN is an open source software application that uses SSL and highly configurable and secure. It creates a secure and encrypted connection between two computers by encapsulating the data packets being sent between them. Remote authentication dial-in user service is an internet standard protocol that provides centralized authentication, accounting, and IP management service for remote access users in a distributed dial-up network. A radius server, the system acting as the NIS send users and connections information to designated radius server using the radius standards protocol defined in RFC 2865. Radius enables the company to maintain user profiles in a central database that all remote server can share. Having a central database provide better security, enabling company to set up a policy that can be applied at a single administered network point. A central database also make it easier to track usage for billing for the network access or internet service provider and for keeping network statistics created by Farmer Networks vendor Livingstone and Enterprise in 1991. Radius Remote Authentication Dial-in User Service ay isang protocol na nagbibigay ng sentralisadong authentication or authorization at accounting management para sa mga users na nagko-connect at nag-a-access ng mga network resources. Maaring kontrolin ang access sa mga network resources at matrack ang mga aktibidad na user sa pamamagitan ng accounting at logging in. Ito ay tumutulong na siguraduhin na ang autorisadong user lamang ang maaaring mag-connect sa network. Next, how does radius authentication work? In the radius protocols, remote networks users connect to their networks throughout a network access server NIS. The NIS queries the authentication to get authentication, authorization, and configuration information about the remote users. Unlike other client-server application, where the client is often an individual user radius, client are the NIS system used to access a network and the authentication server is a radius server. The radius protocol provides centralized authentication service to the server throughout which remote users connect to network. Types of remote user access authentication servers can include access request. When the user tries to connect to network, the client network device send an access request message include the user credentials, such as their username and password and other information. Verification. The radius server receives the access request message and verify the user credentials against database. It checks if the username exists and if the provided password match the one sucks in the database access response if the user credentials are correct. If it sends an access accept message granting the users access to network accounting. Once the user is connected, the radio server can also track their session for accounting purposes. Dial in servers which mediate access to corporate or ISP network throughout modern pools virtual private network. Servers which accept requests from remote users to set up secure connection to private network. Wireless access point which accept requests from wireless client to connect a network. Management network access switch that implement in the 802 times authenticated access protocols to mediate access to network by remote users.
I'll be discussing the managing user permissions and access controls. User permissions refers to the specific tasks that a user is allowed to perform on a system. It means that there are specific rights and privileges assigned to various roles, which in turn are assigned to specific users. For instance, in a content management system, while some users might only be able to view and edit content, others might have the permission to publish or even delete content. Permissions determine what level of access individuals or groups are given as well as what action or operations they are authorized to perform. Access controls is an essential element of security that determines who is allowed to access certain data, apps, and resources and in what circumstances. In the same way that keys and pre-approved guest lists protect physical spaces, access control policies protect digital spaces. In other words, they let the right people in and keep the wrong people out. Access control keeps confidential information such as customer data and intellectual property from being stolen by bad actors or other unauthorized users. Here are some key considerations and best practices for effectively managing users' permissions and access controls. Role-based access control or RBAC. Define user roles. Implement RBAC frameworks to assign permissions based on users' roles or job function within the organization. This approach streamlines access management by granting permissions to roles rather than individual users, making it easier to manage access at scale. For example, an accountant might have access to financial records while a receptionist might not. It helps manage who can do what in a company. Least privilege principle or principle of least privilege. Adhere to the principle of least privilege where users have access to only the data and resources they require to perform their daily job. This reduces the risk of unauthorized access or misuse of sensitive information. This means giving people only the access they absolutely need to do their job. For example, you're giving keys to your house. You wouldn't give someone keys to every room if they only need to be in one. Regular access reviews or regular audits. Conduct regular access reviews to ensure that users' permissions align with their current job responsibilities. This helps identify and revoke unnecessary or outdated permissions, reducing the risk of insider threats and data breaches. This is about checking regularly to make sure people still need the access they have. Sometimes people change their job or responsibilities, so their access should change too. Authentication mechanisms. Implement strong authentication mechanisms such as multi-factor authentication to verify users' identities before granting access to sensitive systems or data. This adds an extra layer of security beyond traditional password-based authentication. This is all about making sure people are who they say they are before letting them in. It's like needing both a key and a fingerprint to open a door, adding extra security.
Hi, my name is Joanna May Sugitan, and we're going to discuss about the identity and access management. Identity and access management solution plays a crucial role in ensuring the security and integrity of a digital assets within an organization. This solution provides a framework for managing users' identities, controlling access to resources, and enforcing security policies across the IT infrastructures. Here are some of the key components and features of the identity and access management. The first one, we have the single sign-on or the SSO. SSO simplifies access to a multiple application and services within a single set of login credentials. It enhances security by reducing the risk of password-related vulnerabilities. For example, an employee logs into their company's SSO portal using their corporate credentials. Once authenticated, they gain access to various applications such as email, project management tools, and customer relationship management software without needing to enter the separate login credentials for each. Next one, we have the Identity Lifecycle Management. Identity Lifecycle Management facilitates the management of users' identities and throughout their life cycles. Automates processes for users' provisioning, authentication, authorization, and deprovisioning. For example, a new employee joins the organization. Their information is entered into Identity Access Management System. Automated processes then provision access to necessary resources, such as network drives, email accounts, and software applications. Upon resignation or termination, the Identity Access Management System automatically revokes access to these resources. The third one, we have the multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication adds an extra layer of security by requiring multiple forms of authentication. It enables organizations to enforce MFA policies across various applications and resources. In addition to entering a password, a user attempting to access sensitive financial data is prompted to enter a one-time passcode sent to their mobile device. This combination of something the user knows, which is the password, and something they have on a mobile device adds an extra layer to security. Number 4, we have the role-based access control. Assigns permissions to users based on their roles or job functions. Facilitates the creation and enforcement of access policies. For example, in a healthcare organization, they implement RBAC by assigning different roles to each staff, such as doctors, nurses, and administrators. Doctors have the access to patient records and prescription information, while nurses have the access to patient charts and scheduling tools. Administrators have the access to system setting and user management functionalities. Number 5, privileges or privilege access management. Focuses on managing and securing privilege accounts. Integrate least privilege principles and monitors privileged users' activities. Another example, system and administrator are granted privileges or privilege access to servers and databases to perform maintenance tasks. PAM solutions enforce the principle of least privilege by restricting access to only the necessary system and monitoring their activities to detect any unauthorized actions. Number 6, we have the Identity Federation. Identity Federation enables seamless and secure access to resources across different domains or organizations. Support standards like SMAL and OpenID Connect to federated authentication and authorization. For example, a company collaborates with a partner organization or on a joint project. Through Identity Federation, employees from both companies can seamlessly access shared resources and applications using their perspective or respective corporate credentials used without the need of separate accounts. Number 7, we have the access review and auditing. Provides tools for conducting access review and audits. Help ensure the compliance with regulatory requirements and internal security policies. Example for this is a financial institution conducts a periodic access review to ensure that employees only have access to the system and data necessary for their job roles. Number 7, access reviews and auditing. Provide tools for conducting access reviews and audits. Help ensures compliance with regulatory requirements and internal security policies. An example for this is a financial institution conducts a periodic access review to ensure that employees only have the access to the system and data necessary for their job roles. Audit logs are regularly analyzed to identify any unauthorized access attempts or suspicious activities. Number 8, we have the identity governance. define and enforce policies for managing users' access rights and certifications, enables automated workflows for access permissions, enhancing visibility and control. Example, an organization defines access policies specifying who can request, approve, and recertify access permission. When an employee requests access to a sensitive system, the request goes through an automated approval workflow based on the predefined criteria, ensuring proper oversight and control. Number 9, we have the APA security. Secures APAs and microservices by managing authentication and access control. Protects sensitive data and ensures the integrity and interaction between applications. Example, an e-commerce company secures an APA endpoint by requiring developers to authenticate using APA keys and implementing rate limiting to prevent abuse, access to sensitive endpoints such as those for processing payment and restricted to authorized application only. Last one, we have number 10, Cloud IAM. It extends IAM capabilities to support cloud-based environments, enables centralized management of user identities and access policies across hybrid and multi-cloud employment. An example for this is a multinational corporation adopts a cloud-based productivity tool like Google Workspace or Microsoft 365. Cloud IAM features enables the organization to centrally manage users' identities and access policies across different cloud services, ensuring consistent security measures are applied regardless.
The top 11 identity access management solution include by Jump Cloud is an open directory platform that provides a comprehensive and integrated suite of identity and access management solutions. Second, Tenfold Security is an identity and access management provider that focuses on user-friendly, easy to management security. Third, IS Decision is an access security provider that specializes in securing Windows Active Directory and cloud environment. Fourth, Talis SafeNet Trusted Access. It provides solutions, products, and services that enable customers to fortify their defenses while placing human at the center of the decision-making process. The workforce identity enables digital account protection for global teams, supporting both secure cloud application and hybrid environment. Or Oracle Oracle Identity Oracle Identify and Manage and Access Management is an American multinational computer technology company, one of the largest software companies in the world by revenue and market capitalization. 7. Prove is a fast-growing identity proofing and affirmation provider utilized by over 1,000 businesses across a range of industries, including financial services. 8. Ping Identify is an identity and access management leader trusted by global enterprises that are looking to implement zero trust security and provide their employees with better, more secure experiences. 9. Microsoft Azure AD is a cloud-based identity and access management service from Microsoft, which is designed to help employees sign into their account and gain access to the resources by for Office 365 and connected application. IBM Security Verified is a multinational technology organized that serve client is in 170 countries worldwide. HID Identity and Access Management. HID Global Security or Security and Access Management vendors secures and verifies people, place, and devices.